Hey guys, I'm Kirsten with the Overmatch podcast, and I am your host today. I have a very special guest, Courtney Moody, who is the owner of Acts of Sourdough. And not too long ago, Courtney, she's taken multiple classes of mine to include active shooter survival, concealed carry for your certification in North Carolina, and my situational awareness stuff. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So you took the classes with me, and then a very intense event happened where you thought you were being carjacked, essentially. Mm-hmm. Tell me about it.
So we were just hanging out, actually, and I went to the gas station.
Yes, because that was actually the day that I was followed home.
Yes.
And I knew I was because I did all these evasive movements.
Every time I hang out with you, I'm always hyper aware of what's going on around me because you are hyper aware. So you were getting followed. You were telling me about it. I went to the gas station with my girls, and just sketchy behavior, I think, was happening that I caught up on because, like I said, you make me hyper aware of things around me, which is not a bad thing.
So describe, because a lot of times people will think, oh, that's off or that's sketchy, but they don't know really how to describe it. So now that you have learned how to, tell me what was sketchy.
I think it was an overuse of eye contact at first. I was looking around and they were always looking at me when I landed on them. It was a lot of
So target locking.
Yes.
They never
obvious.
left you.
Right. Never. Obvious eye contact. And I was like, that's strange. And two people who looked like they wouldn't be together were clearly conversating in different vehicles, kind of looked like they were scouting in a way. So I was having a problem with the pump, and I had 2 of my 3 kids sleeping in the car, and it was telling me to go in to see the cashier to pay for the gas, and that's just not something I was going to do with the girls sleeping anyway.
Right.
So I kept trying to pay for the gas at the pump. Eventually it did work. I think it took like 3 or 4 times though.
And at this time, one guy is in his truck.
One guy is circling the entire gas station.
And then one guy is at the front door, but both are target locked on you.
Totally eye contact on both of them, eye contact. I'm watching the driving around, the posting up by the door.
So what are you thinking? Obviously you're annoyed because you're just trying to get gas because you need gas to be able to get away. But what are you thinking when all of that's happening and you're trying to get it and it's not working? And
right, that it's 2:00 on a Wednesday, and why
this couldn't happen.
Right, this couldn't happen. It's 2:00 on a Wednesday. I'm in a fairly busy gas station, so my instincts were almost fighting with reality.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, well, surely this can't be happening right now. Now is not the time for it to happen. Now's not the time it would usually happen in my head. And
could you sense that you were in a little bit of denial? Like you were denying some of your instinct that maybe part of you was saying, go to a different gas station.
Right. But then I had just,
but you're like, well, that's not
right. I just hung out with Kirsten, and obviously this isn't impossible because she told me it's not impossible. So
right.
I was getting a little nervous that, okay, this is really happening. Mm-hmm. So eventually the gas started pumping, and I saw him circle around, and he was smiling in a really uneasy way. And then the other guy ended up getting in a truck, and then this guy in a car gets in between. So my gas station is on the left-hand side. I am sandwiched. Well, I'm not sandwiched. He was sandwiched because another car was on, their gas station or their pump was on the other side.
And your fuel spot is on the driver's side, right?
Yes, the driver's side. So he gets in between 2 cars, and I'm watching him because I'm nervous, and he starts trying to open my passenger side door, and really aggressively, still in his car though, which he was still he had 1 foot out of his car, his door open, him trying to get in my car, which I guess in hindsight, I don't really know why he's still in his car trying to get in my car. But
faster getaway.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to go back to a car.
Right.
He can just immediately press the gas.
Yeah. Because then I have the kids sleeping in the car. So I just start screaming bloody murder. And I'm like, okay, well, you're trying to take my kids is what I think. Because obviously that's the only thing I'm going to think. I'm a mom alone with her kids sleeping in the car at the gas station with uneasy people around. So he is getting in he's trying to get in the passenger side door. I had locked all the doors anyway. I get in the driver's side and lean over the driver's side chair or the driver's side seat, and I just start screaming, and he gets spooked and drives away, still smiling. It was super uneasy.
How quickly from the time he starts trying to open your door, do you think you responded to get in the car and start screaming? Do you think it was pretty immediate?
Super immediate, because I had already kind of noticed him and was watching him, because this was his like third or fourth circle, and I was watching the whole time. And I would say it probably was just a few seconds from me noticing he's trying to get into I heard it also. And then he ended up waking up one of my girls, and she was like, "Mommy, what is that man doing?" And I'm like, "Nothing good, babe."
So he pulled out. And then the other guy
pulled out too. And they both left.
Yeah.
And then I was like panicking, shaking, and then I leave too.
So from that course, I can point out how well you did. Yes, it's natural to deny things sometimes.
Right.
It's because we don't want to believe that bad things can happen. But you were so aware that reactionary gap, because like we've talked about, it's on average about 1.5 seconds, 1.25 seconds to react to somebody's act.
Right.
It takes our brains a second. But when we're aware, it's not about living in fear, but when we're aware, we can greatly reduce that because we're anticipating that could possibly happen. So our ability to respond and do something about it is far quicker, which is exactly what happened to you.
Right.
You were aware of it. Yes, you ignored the fact that, you were seeing what you were seeing because we all do it at some point in time.
Wednesday.
Right. But you were able to respond so quickly because you saw it coming. I mean, you literally saw every single movement until he pulled your car door, and then immediately did the best thing, which is use your voice.
Yeah.
Because nothing draws attention like using your voice. And in a busy gas station in the middle of the day, everyone's now looking at you.
Right.
So you did a great job.
Right, which I didn't even care about. I think that's the whole thing that I used to think overreacting would get me stares, like I was crazy. But when it actually did happen, I remember so many times in your class, you do say in your classes, "What do you have to lose?" And I feel like I took that in that situation. I was like, literally, I have nothing to lose. I'm just going to scream. What are they going to think? I'm crazy? Like, who cares at this point?
And you locked your doors, which is phenomenal.
Right.
Because that's the first line of defense. Now they can't even get in.
Right.
Whether they are there to take your car, take your children, or just take the purse that you left out on the seat, you had a perfect defense and you won. You won. So good job.
Thank you. I remember calling you and being like, "Kirsten, this crazy thing happened," and I was panicking. I just called my husband, and he was supportive with minimal help. Was like, obviously, like he felt pretty helpless too. Like I felt like he just kind of like wrote off the situation where he was like, "I can't help you right now. Please just do something to get home." And I was like, okay. So then I called you and I was like, okay, well, this is what just happened to me. And I went over the whole story once, kind of panicking. You're like, okay, calm down, say it again. I went over the whole story twice. And you said, "Where is your purse?" And I was like, well, I'm wearing my purse. I was wearing one of those crossbodies. And then I was like, but my diaper bag, like the bigger bag that I have, is on the passenger side door. And you're like, okay, well, he's probably trying to take that. And I was like, he's not trying to take my kids, because that's what I thought.
Right.
And who really knows what he was trying to do, but still it was trying to stay cool, calm, collected, instead of being in that like fight or flight that I'm just not.
Right. Well, and part of being situationally aware, practicing and training these things is so that you can take a situation like that and be able to think critically about what's actually happening and how better to defend yourself from it. And you were up here because that was a very serious situation that just happened, but being able to like process it and see all the little intricate details that you had, but being able to like put it together for you in the puzzle ended up helping you calm down more, because it wasn't, I don't know,
me walking around
worst,
thinking that someone was going to kidnap my girls.
Right. Yeah. So what do you think changed for you since just not only our incredible friendship, but taking the courses that you've taken of mine?
Well, I spend the majority of my time out with my kids. So taking your courses, I live a life of blissful unawareness. So believing,
I wish I knew what that was.
Believing nothing bad could happen to me, and taking your courses, I always say like the courses that you hold, because I've now sat in multiple of them, people don't understand the value in them, because it's just things that people don't want to accept or believe. I don't know where I was when I took your course, but I was like, oh my gosh, stuff like this really does happen. You've seen things like this happen. You teach normal people like me how to react at the very least when something bad does happen, because it can. And I'm super thankful for it, because in a situation where I would need it, I now know that my hands aren't going to be, tied, or my chest won't ache to the point where I don't know what to do. So, which can totally happen, and still kind of did happen, but at least I was more aware.
Yeah. And you, in the beginning of our friendship, you told me a story about when your mom came in and scared you, and you fainted like a goat, like a fainting goat.
I did. I totally did.
And that was, years ago. But now your response is not to faint like a fainting goat, but to use your voice and move toward the threat and stop that threat from hurting your kids, instead of just giving up on life.
Yeah, because my body in fight or flight, at least it was. Like, you've convinced me that
it's not anymore.
That I'm
you definitely
better
fight.
than I was, but I only had 2 kids at the time. And my mom didn't tell me when she was coming over. My husband was at a sports game, and she walked in, and I literally fainted with my daughter in the high chair. And I was like, that's it for me. This person, it's not my mom, this person's coming to kill me. And if I die here first, I can't say that he took me, And I remember all of like the feeling going away, and I just like dropped to my knees, and she walked in the dining room, and she's like, what is going on? And I'm like, you are a murderer. In my head. But then situations come up where I don't react like that anymore. Maybe I've grown up, maybe it's your classes, maybe it's both. But I don't lose all feeling in my extremities and then lose consciousness during these
which is really important to survival.
During these situations anymore. But yeah, that did happen. Gosh, that happened like 5 years ago.
Right. But in all seriousness, to go from that to now, you're not only reacting quickly, being aware, but you're also handling the threat and taking it to the threat and being that protector of your little kids like you're supposed to be. I mean, you're the mom, and you've turned from the mom to mama bear, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I sure hope I am.
It's amazing. Even in the short time that we've been friends, we hang out enough that I've watched you, and you're so much more aware.
Yeah, and it's about finding a voice too, like especially not being like timid in situations, knowing that you are responsible for your kids, knowing that things can happen, whether it's intentional, accidents happen, like me being the one to constantly be in charge of these like 3 little kids, because that is all we do. I don't drop them off to anybody. It's just me. And if I don't know what I'm doing, because they don't know what we're doing, and then it's just 4 people out in the world not knowing what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also training them in that to help you be an extra eye and to be aware, and, just developing them as well. Because like you said, and that's why I'm so passionate about helping women, especially moms, because it really is on us the majority of the time, because husbands are at work or whatever the deal may be. And, it's also women that tend to be the most scared of ever carrying any kind of tool, whether it's pepper spray or a taser or a firearm. And I know you certainly felt like that.
Right.
You never would have ever considered carrying before taking the classes that you've taken with me. And I venture to say it's because it's uncomfortable. You're unsure of it. It's obviously a huge responsibility that if you aren't nervous about carrying, I'm more worried about you than I am about the person who's just like, oh yeah, guns, because it's a very serious thing. Not only is there a huge legal aspect to it and understanding the justification of using deadly force, but then also the possibility of an accidental something happening because you have 3 little kids that you're taking care of while doing a million other things like running a business. So how has that changed for you and your feelings of all of that, and just learning more and becoming more aware and confident in your abilities?
Well, like you said, it's a huge responsibility. So it's one I don't take lightly, and it's one that I knew that I couldn't handle on my own without, like, it's not something that you can just sit through a class, buy a gun, and then just all of a sudden be out in the world with 3 kids and a firearm.
Right.
That was something that I always knew that I couldn't do. So I went from not knowing how a firearm worked in general, just knowing that it hurts people, to now knowing logistics, because in your class, I want to know that it works properly, how like it's functioning, not even so how it just fires, but how like the mechanics of it work, and all of the different kinds of firearms, like what you could possibly carry, what could you feel comfortable carrying, how to carry, what to wear, what not to wear. There's so many logistics that go behind it that I wasn't aware of before your classes, because my number one thing is, what if my kids get it, or like, what if I lose it and I'm out with my kids and then it's against me? This thing that I wanted to protect myself with is now being used against me with my kids. So there was a lot of moving factors when I first started, my first time sitting in your concealed class. There was a lot of factors questions that you had already answered that I didn't even know I was asking. So it's just about being like comfortable and knowing that if I'm using it, we will be safe, but to know how to be safe using it.
Yeah, and it's so unfortunate that there are so many instructors that just don't really know what they're doing, and that only hurts the people who are trying to get comfortable. Like even this week, I had a lady who, she came in and I was like, okay, what are the problems that you're having? Because she just wanted to be able to be more accurate. She was having a lot of issues shooting, and she was like, well, I'm told by every instructor that I'm shooting low. And I was like, okay, well, it's probably this or that. But we got out there and she didn't shoot low once. She was shooting high. And it was because of the way her sights aligned. It had nothing to do with what they were thinking. So, and that just frustrates me, because that's an opportunity for her to have the ability to protect herself and get more comfortable. But how do you do that if you're being taught wrong? It's so important to find good instructors, because it takes like 8 hours to get your NRA instructor certification. And that's just not enough time to teach someone.
As someone who attends it, you don't want to just be another box that they check or another, responsibility that they feel like they've marked off, because it's not just taking the class. It's like following up with everything else afterwards that we have done and we continue to do to make me more comfortable, to make it possible to be able to protect myself with the kids, because it's literally only me with the kids all the time.
Yeah, so, and you do crazy stuff. I mean, you're out in the woods and stuff. I mean,
we do a lot of hikes. Yeah, well, that's homeschooling, so it's I would rather be outside in 90% of the day than be inside doing nothing. But that also puts us out in the world. You know?
So with safety, you have this office that we're seated in today. Obviously, we put some of my stuff in here, but
it looks nice.
This is your office. At Acts of Sourdough, what do you do for safety here with this building? You're on kind of an off Main Street, but this is not this isn't an area where a bunch of people come in and out all the time.
No.
So and the reason I ask is because when the other company we used to work for, there was a store right next door, and it was a bakery, and they asked for training. So Kevin and I put on scenario training for them, because they were having weird things happen to them when they'd come in at 4 o'clock in the morning to cook. And so we did this training, and it was awesome, and they did great. And it really opened their eyes to where their weak points are and stuff in the store, and what they needed to do to be able to defend themselves if, God forbid, something happened. Yeah. So what kind of stuff do you do now that you're just
I think that we're in a pretty good spot where we're not open to the public. So like it's either me or my mom here, and sometimes we have the kids, sometimes we don't. But I think that the biggest thing that we have done is made a little community. One, we always have the door locked. This is not just something that people can just come in and be like, hey, can I order a loaf of bread? That just...
Which means that if someone were to be doing that...
They are not here for a good reason.
Right. Or... I mean, it could be innocent, but it would at least get your heightened awareness up a little bit. Right?
Yes. So we always kind of are really aware when an Amazon driver comes because that's really the only people who come up. But having a community, this is a women-owned business little strip that we have. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's
everyone
awesome.
In this building is, it's a woman-owned business. So we chat constantly about what's going on. We always have each other's backs. We text each other if like something weird is off.
So you have each other's contacts to be able to communicate.
100%.
Because even if they aren't here and it's not an immediately like an immediate threat for them, it's good for them to know, to be aware of, because maybe you're not going to be here one day and they'll see that same person.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's awesome.
So if there's like a strange car that we're not aware of, or someone like snooping around, someone here will tell somebody who's not. So
it also helps that you're literally a stone's throw from the police department.
Oh, we are. We totally are. We could run there.
Yeah, literally. You could run there.
I don't know why I never thought about that.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Have you thought about a running path?
Well, I'm sure that you will help me after this. Okay. An exit.
So on that topic, which is awesome, I didn't even realize this was all female business owners in this strip, which is awesome.
Really cool.
Let's talk about your business and how you went from alcohol to bread.
Yes. Well, like we always discuss, I love working. Some would even say it's a little bit of a hustler in me. I truly just love to work and have always had a job. As soon as I got my license, I drove from the DMV to a restaurant to apply for a job because I knew that I could get there myself. So I love
Miss Independent.
And at first they said no, which was their loss. But then eventually they said, yeah, you can, yes, you can work here. So I worked there for a long time, moved all the way up from a hostess to a bartender. And I love to talk. I love people. Being a bartender was such a good spot for me because we had regulars. I could see people I'm familiar with. I could see people who I'm not familiar with, meet new people. I felt like I really made good drinks. So I felt like I was something I was good at. I could make money. It was like it was a total package for me. Mm-hmm. But it did get a little, after having kids, I had 2 out of 3 kids while I was bartending. So working at night, it just wasn't like a sustainable thing for me anymore. But then that door shut and I came home, was pregnant with my 3rd, and then I had my baby, wasn't working. I know that like being a mom is working in
very, very hard.
In and of its own.
Harder doing that than I ever did as a cop.
That's a huge job. Right. So I spent a year with just my kids. And we did so many cool things. But then I started making bread because I love to put my hands in something. I love to, I don't know, it's like come up with a new hobby, if you will. Mm-hmm. So,
but why, like what led to that? Because that's not how you were raised.
Nope.
That's not, an interest you ever had before?
No.
I mean, literally, how does that happen?
100% a freezer meal millennial.
Right.
Like my mom, we're in a food business together, and she's still like, she flipped her first pancake last month. Like she still doesn't cook or anything, but yeah, she doesn't cook at all. Well, now she does some, but we were doing a photo shoot for a breakfast book. Well, a breakfast book, whatever. It's a breakfast book. Mm-hmm. And it was me taking pictures of these pancakes, and she was sitting at the stove and she was like, I just flipped my first pancake. And I was like, oh my gosh, Mom. But yeah, so honestly, we had just moved from Florida to North Carolina, and we took I wasn't working. My husband took a huge pay cut at the time, and I was like, I'm going to figure out how to cook for our family so we're not eating takeout, because in Florida we ate so much takeout. I worked in a restaurant, I was never cooking at home. So this was something that I had to learn. And as soon as I made my first loaf of bread, I was like, oh my gosh.
So how does it go from cooking to a loaf of bread?
Well, I feel like I got confident and I do nothing halfway. I was like, I totally got cocky. I made like a chicken pot pie one time and I was like, oh yeah, I got this. This is like Southern cooking.
I can say that I've never had anything that you made that wasn't phenomenal.
You try to complain about it though. You really do want to.
I really try, but I can't.
But you like
it's so good.
And I remember making my first chicken pot pie and my husband liking it because he's a little bit of he can be a hard critic. So he liked it. And I was like, oh, I'm a chef, so I'm going to make a loaf of bread because I do nothing halfway.
Right.
I remember like making my first loaf of bread and just the wonder that was flour, water, and salt coming together, being like, oh my gosh, I love this. So then I started a sourdough starter, and about a year after that, I had another friend who owns her business.
But you have to understand, like, literally, how are we friends? I don't even understand. Like, I mean, bread alone, just normal bread, is so hard in my head. How do you go to sourdough, which is even harder, which I don't even understand what the starter...
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it because I'm around you. But like, how do you get to that? Is it just because you wanted to do the best of the best or the hardest thing and be good at it?
It's because I can't sit still. It's because I felt like, okay, I had my baby. I'm making pot pie. I'm making bread. What do I do next? Because I have you know this. I literally hate to be bored.
Right.
I hate to be sitting still. I don't know why. I don't think that I'm like sitting and doing anything not productive, but I just always have to be doing something. So then I was like, all right, I like YouTube sourdough starter, and I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm a chef, so obviously I'm going to do this. So I started a sourdough starter, and I had a friend in business who I was doing homeschooling groups with, and she said, you need to do this. You need to sell your starter. And sourdough is very trendy right now. And I feel like we got really lucky being ahead of that trend, and learning everything we did before it got really big. So when I started selling my starter and started developing recipes, I was kind of the one.
What year are we? When that
this is 2021.
21. Okay,
yes.
So right after all the craziness.
After all the craziness, and I feel like that's when people were starting their sourdough starter. So I started mine in 2020. 2021 came around. I was starting to sell my starter. And I feel like because everyone else was starting too, I was the kind of the person that people looked to. So I was like pretending to be this expert. And since then, I have learned a ton, grown up in the sourdough world.
Well, obviously you were an overnight success as an influencer.
It's hard to think of it that way because you just start posting stuff online and people start looking at it.
But people assume that you're as successful as you are because it just happened.
No. Well, yeah. Yes and no. I feel like people want to see something relatable, and I always try to be something that is relatable online. I hope that anybody who meets me in person can always attest to the fact that I am the same way both ways, because it's really hard to be anything. Like, I have a hard enough time just being one person with how much stuff I'm doing. I can't just like be another online just to appease the masses. So I also have some integrity behind the account, because I am authentically myself doing stuff, cooking
and
for my
all you.
Right.
It's not like
all
you're
me.
an influencer who has someone else answering messages or posting stuff for them. Like, you do all the videos, you do everything, and you work your butt off. And I don't think people realize how much work you actually put into this business. Like, yes, you are very successful and it's going great for you, which I'm so proud of you for, but it's not because you just sit back and relax. Like, you are working hard constantly.
Yeah.
I mean, even when we've hung out before and I was working on my situational awareness ebook and you were working on your cookbook, which is hilarious when you try to compare notes.
Right.
Because I'm talking about, the reactionary gap and how to, be more aware. And you're talking about add a cup of flour here.
which I think is really cool, because like I had a meeting with a business mentor one time, because I came to a crossroads where it was either I was going to take this seriously and it be my job and it become financially important to my family, or say that was a really cool thing that I did that one time, and then just keep it as something that's fun. So we have since taken the route where we're taking it seriously, and there was a time where I was doubting myself a lot, and I had a meeting with a business mentor, and I was like, my biggest supporter is someone who does situational awareness. We're friends, but because you get it, because you're also a mom who works really, really hard. And when I say, hey, I can't do this one thing because I'm working, you're like, totally. Like, can I take the kids for you? Like, what do you need? And that's just not, unless you're doing a job with kids in tow, you just don't understand how difficult it is.
Right.
So I was having a meeting with them and they were like, well, what does she do? And I was like, she does a lot of things, and she has done a lot of things, but she just understands. So it's not something that I have to force a friendship on, even if we do polar opposite things. And I will say till I'm blue in the face, your job is way more important than mine.
I don't know about that, but
people will not pass away because they haven't had a loaf of bread. Like, that's just the reality. And
I don't know, your bread's pretty good.
Maybe you will, but that's it.
Yeah.
But there was a time that we were both working on our ebooks, and we had the kids around, because sometimes it's easier to work in a group than have the kids, asking you a million.
Distract each other.
Right. They'll just play with each other. So when we get together and we work, our jobs are just so different, but we support each other. So I was like, okay, well, what are you doing? And what is your line that you just wrote? And you were like, all right, well, I just, I don't know. No, I know. I just don't want it to be like, you were saying something like, when someone like goes to attack you, this is what you do. And that's like in a PG version of the book that you were.
Terms.
Yes. It was like, if someone's attacking you when you're at the mall, this is what you do. And I was like, oh, okay, perfect. Ask me what I was writing. And I said, well, I told someone how to incorporate cream cheese into their sourdough loaf so that they can bake it and it not come out of the bread. And so we were just going back and forth. I think that whole like hour, we were going back and forth about what you were writing, what I was writing, and we were doing the same thing so differently.
Yes.
Because we love to work, and that's, it's putting your hands to something and being productive outside of motherhood, I think is super important.
Because it's the best job in the world, but it is a little bit hard to not lose yourself because it's so focused on others.
Right.
As it should be. I mean, that's the job, right? But it does help to have something else that you're passionate about that is meaningful and helps people, because I think we're both very service-oriented kind of people. And and it's nice to have somebody who gets it too.
Yeah, someone who gets it. I remember saying like, oh, no, we do totally different things, but we also totally understand each other, because even if you worked before you had kids, I worked so much before I had kids too. So it was something that I had to adjust to. I had to adjust to motherhood more than I had to adjust to work life. And to just be thrown into motherhood without working, it was a transition.
Yeah. So back to Acts of Sourdough, and you start selling everything online, and then now you've got this office and stuff. Like, tell me about the process and the entrepreneurship aspect of it, because I jokingly said it was an overnight success, but it really isn't.
Right.
And I'm sure there were times where you were like, man, how do I do this? What am I doing? Have I made a terrible mistake? I know I feel that way constantly. Yeah,
I think that I ask my husband all the time, would life be easier if I didn't open up Acts of Sourdough? And he always says no, because he's like my biggest supporter.
Right.
Even though he's completely uninvolved with Acts of Sourdough. It is kind of me just for a while feeling like I was treading water and with like bricks tied to my feet. I was like, there's just no way that I'm going to be able to handle all this. It's a huge responsibility. I have a hard time delegating work, and I have a hard time asking for help. I don't know if you know this.
Oh, weird.
I have a really hard time asking for help, and knowing that I was going to take this seriously, I had to ask for help. So then my mom came on. We've hired help in other places. So it's been really cool to like kind of develop this little bread team so I can be with my kids, because it's hard. It's the most important job that I've ever done, but it's also the most difficult. I can make a loaf of bread at this point in my sleep, and probably even edit a video and post it in my sleep. But knowing how to ever evolve with the kids that I'm raising who are all different. I'm a different mom to each of my kids, and they're always at a different stage. So as soon as I feel like I have it handled, I have to like pivot a little bit. So I'm always on my toes, which I've always wanted. I don't want to sit still. I don't want things to come easy. But there is an aspect of juggling both. And sometimes I feel like when I am successful with Acts of Sourdough, I am failing at motherhood. And I have since come to terms. I feel that. Yeah. It's like you can be doing so good and you can feel so good, but then that's like mom guilt pops up over your shoulder and like, what are you doing? You're abandoning your kids. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I have to step back and realize that what they're also seeing is their mom working really hard and doing something that is important to her. So I hope they see that as a good thing, not just we can't go on the hike this one day. We'll have to go maybe tomorrow. Yeah, I have a meeting or something like that's what's happening tomorrow. Is I was so excited to take them fishing, and now I have this meeting that popped up, and I was like, oh, sorry. He's like, we don't go fishing, and I'm like, well, we'll go fishing another day. But it's something that you just have to. The balancing act is always there. So where do you see Acts of Sourdough going, and what? I know you have some big things coming up with conferences, the Pinterest one. Yeah. You're going to be in Salt Lake. You're going to be in Texas. So tell me, you've obviously come from literally just winging it in your kitchen. Totally. And now you're in these huge conferences and things like that. Where do you see it continuing? Well, I want to do more things that like gets me in front of people. So we're working on more things locally. We're working on traveling, yes, but also doing stuff that gets me in front of people, because at the end of the day, the number on Instagram is super important, and it'll get me in front of the people, hopefully where I can meet, hug, talk to, conversate with, that's what's important to me. I'm a huge extrovert, and
really?
Also total opposites. For us, I'm a huge extrovert, or I wouldn't have been a bartender for 7 years. I love to talk to people.
Yeah, we started this and I broke out in hives and started sweating. No. And you're over here like, oh, yeah.
I know. You were like, how are we going to do this? And I was like, I love talking, so don't you worry about it. But there is a desire for me to be in front of people more and to, I don't know, get my boots on the ground.
Is your goal to open this up as a shop as well?
Probably not this spot, but yes, eventually a spot. Like this spot will, I think, always be our like fulfillment office where we can kind of escape to a little bit. Like we've dabbled in doing a class here, but I just like this to be our safe place. I like this to be a place where we can not worry about things for a little bit. So hopefully we open a spot where I can actually bake and sell bread, but it would be in a different location.
What made sourdough stick? Like, why was that the thing that you're like, okay, I've been doing all these little things, but what was it about, especially for the people like me who have no freaking clue? And
well, you've had all kinds of bread, and I think of mine that I've baked. So I feel like with sourdough, it was always something that I could do something else with. So it's not just like a loaf of bread. I can make,
you're right.
I can make focaccia bread. I can make bagels.
Lasagna,
I can make
pizza.
Yes, I can make all.
What's the
pizza,
cobbler?
Yeah. Cobbler, yes. We had pizza, or no, that was enchiladas, but we had pizza, and we'll do cobbler, and I'll make all.
Speaking of enchiladas, who puts freaking quinoa in enchiladas?
I think that you have.
Oh my gosh!
I think that you don't get it with cooking. There's no rules, especially with me.
It was phenomenal though. I couldn't say anything. Carry on though.
Okay, good. But yes, so we can do all sorts of things with sourdough, which is what it kind of was really appealing to me, was never just settling with just like a really good loaf of bread, but it was like,
what's your favorite?
Well, you told me to do that spinach and artichoke one, because I don't do this alone, like I don't, although my husband if I feed him another loaf of bread, he's gonna just vomit because he's had so much bread at this point. I have people like you and your husband who come over and I can just bake for, and you can recipe test and all that stuff. But you gave, which I think is one of the most underrated recipes on my website, is the spinach and artichoke loaf. But I think right now it has to be like a good focaccia bread. Like I did a peach one with hot honey, the pizza one. I think that just anything will go, and it's a good summer bread.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you have those events coming up and everything. What do you think Acts of Sourdough looks like in 5 years?
Hopefully we have, I don't know, more free time, a little bit more free time, a little bit more of a rhythm. I just had a strategy meeting yesterday about what it will be about like in 12 months. And for the next 12 months, it looks like me really putting my head down and working hard and not necessarily seeing a lot of fruit come from that. But hopefully at the 5-year mark, we would have gotten to a point where things are just a well-oiled machine, where I can be able to travel a little bit. And
so you see this continuing on for the foreseeable future?
I'm committed.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I'm committed.
How does the influencer aspect of it play a role for you as an entrepreneur with this business?
Just finding a healthy balance with it. I think that...
and also, how are you so successful on Instagram without
being inappropriate?
Yeah. Showing things or being promiscuous or that, because... I'm not, but I also have nowhere near the followers you are. I'm also shadow banned like 32 times over.
We do different things on Instagram though, that the algorithm doesn't like. I don't understand
why you're not shadow banned. Your things are prettier than mine.
No, I'm not shadow banned because I don't make people mad with what I do.
Fair enough.
So I had to decide. I had
not to get on that topic.
Your pedestal's right here.
Not to get on that topic, but seriously, like how is me giving examples and showing people like, hey, this is how to protect yourself, how to be more aware. Like these are the things you're looking for. Mm-hmm. This is the actions that you can take to protect yourself and your family. Mm-hmm. How in the world is that what's being blocked?
I'll tell you, because I'm just a nobody on Instagram scrolling. I see my friend Kirsten up there, and the videos that you commentary on, I think make people uncomfortable. So
yeah, but life is uncomfortable.
Yes, but people don't like to be uncomfortable.
You got to get comfortable with uncomfortable.
So you're going to tell 20,000 people that because it's uncomfortable to see some of the videos that you're commentating on. So although it's important to see, and I think that your commentary is great on it, it's still a video that even I'm sometimes like, Oh no.
Well, yeah, it's rough. So I think that the police world, I don't know, maybe takes away that blissful, what did you call it? Blissful unawareness. Yeah. Because I've seen the worst of the worst, the most negative stuff. So it doesn't, right or wrong, it doesn't really affect me in the same way anymore. But that is the reality. And it's not to be paranoid or to fearmonger, but to be aware enough so that it doesn't happen to you. Because there's so many times that I wish I could have, in cases I was working, that I wish I could have talked to the victim for just 1 minute and said, hey, this is what you look out for, or this is one thing you can do, and it would have saved their life,
right?
Or saved them from serious injury, or they could have avoided it altogether.
Yeah.
And the purpose of the videos is not to make people uncomfortable, but to show people that these things do happen.
Yeah.
That we can pretend and have the mentality of, oh, it'll never happen to me, but you're just doing yourself a disservice. And it's very frustrating that things like that, where, it's not violence, it's not inappropriate, it's not all these things that, Instagram says that it is. It's truly me trying to help people. And, I've never made a dime on Instagram. I tried. I tried.
That was actually a great effort.
Right. But it doesn't matter if I post a poster about a concealed carry class or if it's these videos that help people. But the reason why I keep doing it is because there have been so many messages that someone has sent me, and they'll be like, hey, because I took this class or because I saw this video, I was able to recognize this and I avoided this. Yeah. And I mean, that makes it worth it.
Yeah, like I said, your job is super important, where it's like people don't realize that something as simple as a video with commentary on it could open their eyes to a situation that they didn't even know could happen.
And we do need to get, in this country, here I go again.
No.
We need to get comfortable with uncomfortable.
Yeah.
We are so complacent right now, and it is killing us, and it is making us weak. And that goes from every realm of everything that I won't go into detail about because you told me no.
Oh,
but
that's
like,
so kind.
we need to start getting comfortable with uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I need to get, need to start trying things like sourdough.
No, I don't want
no,
you
but
to
I will
ever
try to cook better.
I don't ever want you to change what you're doing, no matter what the Instagram algorithm is doing, because I'll sit and, like, I've been to now 2 active shooter classes, 2 concealed carry classes, and a situational awareness class of yours. And I'll sit in the back of one that I've already heard and I'm there for support, and just look at the people sitting there and them not knowing how lucky they are to be sitting in a class of yours because of how much information that you share. And it does, like, even a class recently that I sat in with you, people, you could tell were uncomfortable with that content and uncomfortable with what you were saying because they don't want to believe it, because they don't want to believe that somewhere that has their children in it, someone bad with a gun can come in and do something harmful. People just don't want to accept that that's the reality. And I know that even though it was a cricket classroom.
Crickets. It was so hard.
It was a cricket classroom, that they still got information that would help them if something comes up.
Yeah, and the reality is the best way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun.
Yeah, and people, more good guys will have guns with classes like yours.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Back to you.
That was it.
The end.
Thank you for coming.
And I'm now stepping down off my high horse.
Now there's your pedestal.
Back to your Instagram.
Yeah.
How were you able to find success on that? And it seems like I even saw something the other day that said kids are asked what they want to be when they grow up, and they'll say influencers.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
That's hard, because I feel like there's a balance of social media that we don't know how to give our kids boundaries. So like for my son, for example, we didn't know the dangers of the web when we had him 7 years ago. So like we were doing what everyone else was doing. And so now he sees people on YouTube specifically who are doing really cool things, and maybe he gets in his head that he can also do those really cool things. But I think that it's really important that the kids know the boundaries with social media, and especially like on my Instagram, I had a video go viral of my littlest, where a media company ended up picking it up and buying it. And it was probably the most tamed video that could ever go viral, because I was like panicking at first when I signed the rights over to this video of her. She was eating dirt. A lot of people have probably seen it. And you couldn't see her face. She was fully dressed, which my kids can be kind of feral, but she was fully dressed, dirt all over her face. You could barely like really make her out. Yeah. And the comments on that were so alarming that I decided right then and there that I was never going to put my kids on my bread page, that they weren't going to have, because I have a personal page with like, friends and family, but on my bread page where I can't vet all the eyes that go on my kids, I was never going to put them on there. I was never going to be, I was like invited to I don't want to like shame mommy vloggers, because there's a place and they can be positively influential, but I was invited to this mommy vlogger event in Utah, I think around Mother's Day. And it was like setting up this booth and talking about all how like we can push our kids on the internet to inspire other moms. And that was just a realm I was never going to walk down with my kids, because they don't get a say, I could probably,
they need to be able to have that decision.
Right.
Too.
And also having a camera on them all the time was not something that was appealing to me. So although they're funny and have these viral moments, me enjoying them is more important than making a buck off of them. So it's just my hands, a sourdough starter, and a new recipe on Instagram. And that's something that I can go to sleep with feeling good about.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
Even the
and like you said, it's so, you open yourself up to so much, and everything you put out online can absolutely be used against you later.
Totally.
And or your child later when they're an adult.
Right.
And you have to be just so careful online. I'm the same way with my kids on mine, because I've even gotten threats before because of things that I've posted. Yeah. It's just not worth it. It's have not to worth protect our kids.
It's totally not worth it. I will never regret not putting my kids in compromising situations on Instagram or online or at any of those posts that I make. I will never regret keeping them off of it, but I will regret, no matter if I made $1 million, I will never regret, or I would always regret having them in a video in a compromising situation. That's something I couldn't feel good about, something that would embarrass them in the long run. It's just
now with AI, there's so much that can be done.
And they don't even know. They're just trying to, like, even Remy, they're just trying to play in the sandbox. They don't want a camera on their face. They don't want to be put on the internet for like eyes to. I think that it is sometimes really alarming how many people look at my stories, because I don't know who they are. And sometimes I see like crazy stuff, and I'm just like, I'm always thankful. Like, I'm so glad I posted a picture of a cobbler and not a picture of Charlie doing the dishes or something like that. Doing the dishes. Charlie playing with Play-Doh. Sometimes she was helping with the dishes today. And I thought it was really cute. I could have just easily posted a picture of her, and then I would have 20,000 people looking at her. Yeah. And I'll just never regret not putting them online.
Yeah. Well, that is our conclusion.
That was fun.
Yeah, that wasn't bad.
No, it wasn't. I told you it wouldn't be.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today and sharing your story and women making it in business and the successes that you've had, and also for being my friend, because I know that's not always easy.
I think that you're a great friend.
So where can people find you who maybe want to start getting into sourdough and learning more about all that?
Well, my main hub is Instagram. Like, that's where I am. Acts of Sourdough, ACT, Acts of Sourdough, and Facebook, website, Pinterest. I'm not on TikTok.
Yeah, good. So ACTS of sourdough.
Of sourdough.
Mm-hmm. And then what's your website?
actsofsourdough.com. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And if you guys are looking to learn more about Courtney and all the stuff that she does, go ahead and look her up. The end.
Bow, bow, bow.